Hi, it's Maxine. It's been so long since I did a video. I kind of thought that because my 50 Signs I Was a Child with Autism video was my most successful yet, that I would do a 50 Signs I Am an Adult with Autism, but everything that kind of like late diagnosed. I was diagnosed like in my early 30s. I didn't know what autism even was until I was in my late 20s to early 30s. And also, for anyone who hasn't been here before, I'm just getting over a cold, so sorry, my voice is not kind of my usual and my skin is like so dry, but I just felt like I keep putting this off, so I'm just gonna do it today. And I'm sitting at White Rock and it's just beautiful. I'm right by the water and the boardwalk, and it's just gorgeous out. So some of these will repeat from my other video, but I'm trying to direct most of it. I'm trying to come up with examples that are mostly like my experience as an adult. And so I might have missed, I'm not going to be talking about a lot of those key autistic traits that happen in childhood, because I feel like you'd have to watch the other video to kind of see what it was like for me as a child. But a lot of those examples did carry on into adulthood, and a lot of those things I still struggle with today, but a lot less, thankfully. There's a lot of things I kind of was able to outgrow, or just happens a lot less, or because I know I'm autistic, it's like I can help myself out more with emotional regulation and sensory issues, and in relationships and just everything. Things are not like perfect by any means now, but it kind of just feels like a starting point. I have like gotten into some really bad habits, like when it comes to relationships and stuff, but I'll kind of touch base on that with my notes. So I'm starting again, as the same in my other video. I'm starting back at like the senses, the 5 senses. So with taste, when I was younger, I was like a very picky eater. And then as I kind of mentioned, like growing up in poverty at times due to one of my parents' addictions and gambling habits, like we'd have tons of foods one week, and then the next there'd be like condiments. And so in the beginning I was like extremely picky, but then I feel like because I was like starving a lot of the times and going to school without meals and coming back starving, I kind of just would eat whatever was available. So I got over a lot of my picky habits, but I was always a picky meat eater, and then I became vegetarian in like grade 9 in high school, and I was vegetarian till like my late 20s. Then I've kind of been like pescatarian, ate meat for a bit, and kind of like back and forth to vegetarian. I would like to go back to vegetarian someday. I kind of regret ever eating meat again, but I feel like when I did keto and I was losing a lot of weight, I started to get like intense meat cravings. And you know, I have a lot of food sensitivities, like all the processed, like vegetarian options are all the processed vegetarian options are like, you know, soy and peas and all this stuff I'm not supposed to have. Not that it stops me from having other things, but it's just that if I avoid those things, it's kind of harder to get protein. There's tons of protein in vegetables, but I'm just not like a bean and nut kind of person. So I think that's why I've struggled with my weight a lot of my life, is because I'm like, I was not getting a lot of protein. I was eating a lot of carbs, and then it like leads to a sugar addiction, and it's hard to keep your weight off. So it's all complicated. I'm just going talking about things that are irrelevant, but yeah, I just have had I don't know if I included this in my things, but I think I forgot, but I've just struggled with eating disorders as well, and that's something that autistic people, like, tends to be common in the autistic community. So anyway, back to the beginning. So the 5 senses. Oh, so 2 is hearing. So audio processing disorder. I have an audio processing disorder, and that is something that, like, you know, can be, I've heard that it's common in the autistic community. Like, there's a lot of comorbid conditions, and because I have like some speech issues, learning issues, and a hearing problem, I think that's why I struggled so much when I was like younger, and to this day. An example of my audio processing disorder is that there's songs I've heard a million times, like songs I like, or songs on the radio, those pop songs that they play over and over and over again on radio stations, that I like could not tell you what the words are. Like, probably I could not tell you like 80% of the words. Like, until I read the lyrics, it's very unclear what the words are. And so, and then it's funny, once I read the lyrics, then it's kind of like, I have no idea what I thought it was before. It's so clear what it is now. But yeah, that's one of my things. So 3 is sight. So I have really good vision, thankfully, but before, and gradually it's gotten less and less, but I used to have like extreme light sensitivity. Like, I would almost go into the stores wearing sunglasses because I just had like extreme light sensitivity, and it would like make my eyes water. Then my watery eyes would get in my makeup, and it would just make it worse. And so what else about sight is like an autistic trait? I think light sensitivity is the main one. I feel like with sight also, like, maybe because I'm just ADHD, but like I just remember all the time, like, being on walks with people, driving, just whatever, and I'm always like, did you see that animal? Did you see this? Did you see that? And no one ever sees what I see. Like, I have like a really good, I don't know what, like, I think there's a theory out there that like autistic people used to be hunters in history, and I feel like the empathetic side of me would never be a hunter, but perhaps in history, like, people like me were hunters because of our like senses and our abilities. But next is So 4 is smell. I have like an extremely heightened sense of smell, and when I was younger it was a lot worse. Like I would get instant headaches at like smoke or strong perfume or tar on the road. And like I said before, I didn't know if it was so unbearable for me to be exposed to it emotionally, or if the chemicals would really cause a headache, but it would make me have a meltdown too sometimes when I was really young. Like now as an adult, maybe because I can remove myself from those situations, then I don't get it as often, but yeah, I still have a heightened sense of smell. Like I'm always like the first to notice when something's off. Or I was gonna share a story and then I thought, well, it's kind of inappropriate and this video might be for like people of all ages. So next is touch. So I used to get, like when I was young, I had like severe issues with textures, like not just in food but clothing, and I would like anything that was restrictive. I hated wearing mittens and hats and scarves, things that were tight, like, or just like rough and dry and itchy. So I like exposed myself to getting frostbite many of times because I was like living in a cold climate and I wouldn't protect my skin. And but slowly, like a lot of the decisions I make in my wardrobe doesn't always have like a lot to do with what it looks like, but it's like how it feels. And like I love things like this, like that are like smooth and what's the word? I don't know, but it's just like only just a couple of years ago, maybe like in the last, I don't know, only in maybe like the last like 7-8 years did I finally start buying things that were out of my range for like textures, like things that were approved. So like I started to buy sweaters that were a bit itchy and things like that. I was just kind of able to overcome some of my texture issues with time, but I still am pretty selective about it. But yeah, it's gonna be another really long video because we're only 13 minutes in and I'm only on point number 5. So 6 is trouble maintaining friendships and relationships. So ever since I was young, this has been a problem. I definitely do better in like one-on-one situations with friends and everything. But, you know, I still was able to meet a lot of people when I was younger, because when you're in school, you're constantly surrounded by others and you don't have to work as much and whatever, so you're like always with your friends. And if you have extracurricular activities, or like I was in Girl Guides before, it was just a lot easier to meet people. I think that's like the average person. It's not really an autistic thing, but it's just that I think it's just a lot harder now, because like, for example, I have joined like Bumble BFF and I met like quite a few awesome people on there and friendships that I had for years, and we like, some of us went on vacation together and stuff like that. But I feel like, I don't know if it's just with age or if it's autism, but it's kind of like I'm not willing to sacrifice certain things. Like if their beliefs are a lot like not like mine, it's really hard for me to not, it's just really hard for me to first of all, I'm like a very unusual person, and so to meet someone exactly like me and who has my strong beliefs is like very challenging as it is. Usually friendships, like you're friends with people who have different points of view, different backgrounds, different everything, like thoughts and habits, and that's fine, but there's certain things I just can't compromise on anymore. And then I have developed a really bad habit where I like just kind of ghost people, and I really hate that I do that, but I guess it's just like I don't like the conflict, and like I don't want to have a discussion about it. Like I don't want to be like, I don't like that you do this, because I just don't want to change people, but I don't like want to continue the relationships. And I usually do have like a lot of regret about it, thinking of the fun times we had, but there's just some things I just can't compromise on. Like I can't really give an example without being like too specific about certain people, and I don't want to, like, if by off chance that they see this, I don't want them knowing I'm talking about them. But anyway, that's just one really bad habit I'd like to get myself out of if I can at this rate. And like trouble maintaining relationships as well. Like, for example, in like an intimate relationship, like with a boyfriend, I just in the beginning, it's like really hard for me to be myself fully, so they don't really get a grasp of like who I am until I'm comfortable. And then, relationships might not progress if like you're not being your authentic self, or I'm just like afraid of being judged, or I have PTSD from years of trauma. So it's kind of like autism. It's kind of PTSD. And so 7 was sex. It's hard for me. I'm like in my late 30s and it's still hard for me to say that, but it's like something everyone does almost. But when I was younger, like, but as an adult, I would abuse alcohol in order to get intimate, because it's just like a sensory overload experience. Like, even if I am a sexual person and have those desires, that like once I'm in the setting, it was like, I remember one of the first times I had sex sober after only hooking up all the time, like wasted. Even if I was like seeing somebody repeatedly, I would always like have a little something to just take the edge off. But when there was like those first few times when I was completely sober with a partner, like I cried, because it was just like so, I just thought, oh, well, this isn't good at all. I can't like enjoy myself, or are they enjoying themselves? Like, just way too in my head. Just like very just like so many thoughts going through my head all the time. And I guess the alcohol kind of like numbs me out, and then it would like make me extremely confident and stuff. But thankfully I don't abuse alcohol anymore, but I also don't, it's like, sex is one of those things that is on like a lot of people's mind. Like, it's something that people need as like a release, but it's not something I ever like go seeking in my life. It's like I kind of just it's almost like when alcohol's out of the equation, I'm almost like asexual. I just barely think about it. I'm not actively like on online dating, and I was for years, and I just would ignore. I was like very selective about who I was gonna meet, and I'm like a romantic person, like a hopeless romantic, so I had a phase of hooking up, but it was like meeting people in person. But when it came to online and hookups, I I don't know if I ever once did, actually. I can't think of, I talked about it at times, but then I would just back out of it and think, this isn't really what I want. So, 8 is trouble maintaining a job. When I was younger, I had I babysat, and that was fine. And then I had a couple jobs with like one company, and it kind of branched off to other departments, all within the same kind of corporation. And I never really struggled with that. But then once I was living on my own as a young adult, and got my first apartment at 18, 19, I just had a lot of trouble. It's like the, it's like the hyperactive side of me would come out at certain jobs, and I would get in trouble. I was kind of acting out, or I was just really bored with whatever the job was. So I would, I don't know. I became pretty defiant, against leadership, and I would either quit jobs, or I got fired a few times. Thankfully, I haven't faced, I haven't been fired from a job since probably my mid-20s. Because after that, I was self-employed for a while, and then in the last few years, I've done things that I actually enjoy. But before that, I've had so many jobs, I'm not even exaggerating, probably 30 jobs. I became a dental assistant right after high school, so I was in some professional settings, but it was the job itself that I just didn't like that led me to quit that route in life. But yeah, I think that a lot of us autistic people probably have trouble maintaining, either you get set in your routine and you thrive with it, which I do. Once I am in a routine and I have a job I like, then I'm thriving. But if you're in a job where it's not secure, it's maybe casual, part-time, and then you get mistreated at work, you get bullied, which is common. All of that just has played a factor in why I have been trouble maintaining a job. But thankfully, since about 25, 26, that hasn't been so much an issue. Now I just have an issue where I just really don't know. I did get a job that I really love and works so well with all my disabilities, but that's a story for another day. I moved to, I had to move for this full-time position I finally got, and then it just turns out that it was a little too rural for me, and I had to quit, unfortunately, and now it's kind of starting at the bottom again. I can't tell if it's a bird or a person. Anyway, wow, this video, I need to stop. Okay, the last time I did this video, and why it flowed a lot better, is because I kind of tried to stick to the point and not elaborate. So I'm gonna try to do that for the rest of the time, or this video is gonna be 2 hours long. Okay, so 9 is thought patterns. So things get stuck in a loop on my head. When I was younger, it was mostly songs. It would kind of be an all day and then the next day it might be something different. But that is something that happens to autistic people a lot, or like repeating phrases, repeating words, repeating what people have said in your head over and over or out loud. Next. I'm just gonna have to move on so things aren't so long, but 10 many stims, and I didn't know what stimming even was. And when I had one of my first serving jobs, I was doing this like thing with my hand, going back and forth from the kitchen to the restaurant, and then I looked it up and I'm like, is it alien hand syndrome? But I realized that the environment was loud and I had to take care of everyone, and it was just so overstimulating that I was stimming, but I didn't recognize that at the time. It took me a really long time to realize, well, first of all, I'm autistic, and second of all, I was stimming. But I have a lot. Like, I used to pick my split ends. Like, in school, I was barely paying attention. Never, like, I was just picking my split ends all the time for, like, literally 15 years or more. That's, like, so hard to believe. It's, like, I guess I was, like, listening to the teacher, but it's hard to really pay attention when you're kind of, like, doing something else. But, and I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with the eye contact thing. Like, I wasn't focusing and looking at the teacher. But stimming, I just have tons of stimming. I have, like, you'll have to see my other video. Like, there's just too many to even explain. But some of them are like skin picking, and some is like when I'm standing and I'm on the phone, I'm pacing, or like if I'm waiting in line or something, I'm usually pacing or doing something. Like, it's kind of just like a release of energy is how I see it. 11 is special interests. So at times in my life when I was discussing issues I was having, like with a family doctor, they would ask me about special interests, and I kept going, no, because I just didn't realize what that was linked to. I didn't know what it meant. And it turns out, like, well, one of my special interests, like, I feel like I have quite a bit, but one of my main special interests is collection. So I would collect like movie stubs and pins and books and candles and shoes and clothes, and everything just becomes like in excess, and even to the point where some things were like in bags just for years, almost like a mini hoarder. Because thankfully it wasn't like very severe where it was like taking up room everywhere in my home, but it was kind of like beginning to get to that point, I guess, because I wasn't making use of everything. It's like they're sitting in bags and I never, or it's like if I got so much nail polish, well, in a couple of years it's all expired, like just an example. So kind of collections has been my main one. Movie tickets and concert tickets and everything I said before. 12, I don't know what I really meant by this, but I'm kind of like a messy person, like, and I thrive when things are more like organized. I feel kind of like I can't even function, I can't have a routine when things are like messy, and a lot of the times things just get messy so easily that I don't maintain a good routine or cleanliness or like cooking for myself. I just kind of want to get out of where I live and go get something quick and easy. 13 is thrives on routine, so kind of what I was saying with above. Like, I'm sure most of us thrive on a routine, but thankfully, like, the routine thing hasn't been like a huge, I know that's like a huge autistic trait, is like we have our routines, and we get like meltdowns if our routine is disrupted. But thankfully that hasn't been a huge problem for me, because like when I was young, I never had a routine. I never had like a set bedtime. Like, things were just really chaotic, so I kind of just had to go with the flow. So like that hasn't been as much of an issue. I just know that I do thrive when I have a routine, like when I'm, but for such a long time, like I haven't had a proper routine since I had my home daycare. I miss that so much, but I had to move away because it was like my mom owned the home and there's just too much resentment there. So I gave it all up to move to beautiful BC from Winnipeg, and I don't regret that at all, and I like having my own space, but I miss having my daycare. Like I miss having that routine. I miss being surrounded by all the love and excitement and laughter. But I guess like yeah, I definitely like, you know, some people, if their routine is interrupted in one way or another, they can kind of just adapt to it, but it does still bother me a lot where it's like hard for me to mask my emotions of how I'm feeling about whatever the case is. Next is, so 14, when stressed, I kind of get into like almost a paranoid, like schizophrenic nearing, like it's just like if too much is going on in my life and the routine isn't there and I'm not taking care of my health, like with food and diet and everything and exercise, then I kind of get into this like more paranoid state of being. And I looked it up, and like, you know, a lot of autistic women can develop like schizophrenia with age, and I'm like really fearful of that. But I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, so there's a lot of ways I'm preventing that from happening, because it tends to the risk increases when you're like abusing drugs and alcohol and everything. But I just need to get into a better habit of, you know, like just with everything, things just need to improve, and then hopefully that improves. So 15 is like, when I was younger, I was a lot more gullible, and I was like very innocent and naive, and I kind of let people walk all over me. And I just couldn't recognize, like I just would see the good in things, and because I don't lie and I like have, it's almost like impossible for me to lie. I just assume everyone else is telling the truth. And I think with age, like I've definitely been able to overcome that a bit. But yes, in those earlier years, and still as an adult, not like a child. And 16. So I kind of like, I've said this before in my other video, but I want it, like, I get like very locked in my head. Like say I'm having a conversation with someone and they say something that I find like rude, for example. It's hard for me to like get the words out that I want to say. Like I always feel like I'm either just like stuck in my head, or another thing is worried about the repercussions of like speaking my mind, or it just doesn't come to me until much later, and then I like ruminate, if that's how you say it, and just like think about it over and over and wish I had said something. But it's just kind of like, I wish I could be as blunt with others as they are with me. Like people just for some reason just like think they can say whatever to me. But finally with age, I'm like getting a lot better at where like I'll snap back and I will say something, and then it like puts people in their place, and like, or express how that has hurt my feelings, for example. And I'm glad that I've been able to kind of get to that point, but it's still just not as frequent as I wish. 17, how others treat me. So when I was younger, like when I was like a kid, I'm sure like in elementary school kind of people treated me like I was very special needs. And then in middle school to high school, people treated me like I was just kind of like teachers, for example, just that I was like disruptive or lazy, or like I had so much stuff going on at home. I had ADHD as well. It was really hard for me to focus in class, but now as an adult, like people have treated me like a child, even though I'm like almost 40 years, well, I'm like 36, but people have just continuously treated me, it's like where they just, I can't even describe it, but people just treat me like a child. And it's like, if only you knew like what I'm really capable of and what I've done with my life. Like if, I don't know, like the things I've done, like ever since a young age to now, like I don't know, like children are amazing and can do incredible things, but like I'm not, people just feel like they can talk to me any which way and treat me however, and it's always poor for some reason. I was gonna mention before this video that unfortunately a lot of what I'm talking about is pretty sad, and it's like kind of depressing, and like, but this is just how it is, and I'm venting, and it's it just feels good to vent. And it's like, I don't know, when you're talking about a disability, it's hard to kind of only explain like the good side of it. Like there's not, I'm happy with being diagnosed now, and I'm happy with knowing myself, and it brings me so much peace and understanding and ways to help myself and those around me. And so that I really appreciate, and I also like love being who I am. Like there are things I want to improve on, but I'm happy to be who I am, and I'm happy about my accomplishments. But I don't know what I was saying. I completely lost it. I was like talking, then I'm looking, and it's raining, and the sounds and the waves. But next is 18 is eye contact. So I have trouble maintaining eye contact, even just like looking at the video, like looking at the wherever's filming, like that's just, I don't know, difficult for me. I guess I shouldn't be like having it facing myself, and I should be recording and looking at like the camera, but the reason I have it facing this way is in case it like turns off and I don't know, and then I just go on and on and on and it's not recording. So but yeah, eye contact has been a thing. Like I guess I could have put that in with sight. But yeah, I think that's, I don't know why, it's just so, it just feels like people are looking into my soul, or I can see their, like it, I don't exactly know what it is, but it's just something that us autistic people have an issue with. And then when I try, and I'm like, I think I'm staring too much. Next is 19 is social cues. So I have a horrible problem with age. Before, when I was young, I was so quiet, like it's kind of like people are trying to fish to get the words out of me, and I was like almost mute in some situations, and then I was like really hyper if I was comfortable. But then with age, like, also because I'm like ADHD, like I've developed this really bad habit where I like interrupt people to like get what I need to say out before it's gone. So, but I just have a bit of issues with social cues, like I've just noticed, like, if I was in a group setting and everyone just can seem to, it just flows. And even if like one person's sentence ends, the next person's just begins, like, it's just kind of like effortless and it flows. And me, it's like I feel I have to be like abrupt and like interrupt people in order to say anything. But that's kind of just how it's felt at times. 20 is limited interest. So I had special interest, but I also had limited. So if you take almost like anything in pop culture, like certain celebrities and movies and TV shows, series, like I haven't seen pretty much any popular series since maybe I was like a kid. Part of that is because I just don't have cable, but the other part of that is I just don't care, and I don't care to get it, and I don't, like, I've never seen Game of Thrones, or I barely watch The Office, or anyway, if you just pretty much take anything like in mainstream media in the last like 20 years, I've never watched it or gained much interest in it. And it's like even the bands and things I like, it's kind of stayed the same. Or like my music tastes, I used to like all kinds of different bands, and now I kind of just like the same music that I've always listened to. But when it comes to new music, I don't like specific artists, and I don't deep dive into like certain bands. I kind of just like certain songs and I make playlists out of it. So I just noticed that like other people tend to get like, I don't know, but there are autistic people who get like hyper fixated on one kind of like band or one artist or one genre, and they kind of make that like their whole world. But I kind of wish I could be like that, but I think there's just a lot of factors into why that hasn't been like the case for me. And part of it is probably like just like work has always been kind of irregular. Like even when I had my home daycare and it was so amazing, well, my days would start really early and they would end really late. So then it's like I just didn't find a lot of extra time. Like at the end of the day, it's like I'm just tired and I'm sitting there and just watching like some TV show or something. Oh, well, one of my special interests, if anything, in that category of like TV is like I used to watch like a lot of just like trashy reality shows, but not like, more so like relationships or like real world or things like that, not like the Kardashians or anything. So next is so 21 is more isolated than ever. So it's like I want to, it's not like, I know some autistic people are kind of like they have their routine and they really like being hermits and they don't see any flaw in that and they don't really seek to change things. But it's like I want things to change, but I feel like at this point in life I've just been hurt and let down so many times, and my childhood as well, that it's like harder for me than ever to like put myself out there. And so there's some things I want to conquer this year, especially with relationships and isolation. 22 is difficulty with planning and organizing. So I think I used to be like really organized and with certain things, like to agree, like I kind of get obsessed with time and stuff, and I think I used to like piss off my friends secretly. They wouldn't tell me, but like I'm always obsessed about time and being on time, or like we're gonna be here at this time, blah 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 blah. Like time is something, it's like one of those things where I would like show up way too early to interviews and stuff before I knew any better. And it's like if I had an appointment in the day, I just have to like almost leave the house immediately. Like I couldn't just like function and do things like as normal people do. I don't know, but I guess like I do have difficulty planning. Like I've taken vacations before where I'm like, it's on a complete whim and I'm just gonna just figure it out when I get there. So I kind of wish I was better at planning and organizing, because I could have like made these trips that I've gone on like more just like I could have just made these trips more worthwhile and like seen more things. 23 is struggle to multitask. So I like when I am doing something or doing work, it's like I feel like I just have to finish what I'm doing, and it's hard for me to like juggle multiple things without like feeling overwhelmed. Like sometimes I've done like shopping for customers, and then it's like I do one order, and if another order comes in, it instantly like stresses me out. Like it's like I just want to do the one, but if you say no, then your percentage goes down and all this bullshit. But like even just something as simple as that, I feel this like sense of overwhelm with like multitasking. 24, speech and communication. So I have like, you know, a stutter stammer. I don't know, because I didn't have the luxury of seeing a speech therapist as a child, but I have, you know, so I have problems with hearing, like an audio processing disorder. Then I have a bit of like a lisp or whatever. So, and so it's like people just treat me like I'm speaking an alien language sometimes, which I'm laughing, but it's kind of not funny. Like it has, like, communication is one of the biggest struggles with autism. And so because I have these two issues and autism, it's just made life more challenging. So 25 is too loud or too quiet. So sometimes it's like I'm bellowing, I'm so loud I don't realize how loud I'm talking. And then other times it's like I'm so quiet, like I don't know, like I I wish I could help it, but like say I'm ordering a drink at Starbucks or something, like I cannot just speak up for some reason. Like I say my name like almost like a whisper. I don't know. But I guess it's just that awareness like we struggle with. 26, difficulty expressing, explaining. So I just, like for example, I had an interview like recently. I think it went well, but it is really hard for me in those situations to kind of like, you know, even use the STAR method to explain. Like STAR method is like situation, task, action, result. In the moment, it's hard for me to really come up with ideas, and it's just that I guess it has, part of it is like I'm just not a fake phony person, so it's hard for me to come up with like fake examples. Secondly, I try not to, like, I think about the past a lot. Maybe I do dwell on it, but I don't like hang on to these like specific situations, which I know you're just supposed to be prepared to answer those questions when you go into it. And I have gotten a little bit better at it, but it's just that things don't flow off the top of my head like that easily. In those settings, especially. And then with explaining, like sometimes I feel like I'm either just going into too much detail or just not enough. Like there's just, I have a difficulty with that. So yeah, definitely oversharing, over-explaining, and then also at times under-explaining or not getting my point across very well at all. 27 is masking less after diagnosis. So I used to mask a lot because, well, for one, I just thought, well, you know, I grew up in this sick environment. I'm just different. I don't know. So I went into all these jobs and stuff and was struggling in all these ways, not knowing I was autistic, not knowing I had ADHD, not knowing I had PTSD, OCD, learning all these things. And it's true. It's sad, but true, all these diagnoses. But it's just like I adapted like a chameleon to my environment. I tried to be like everyone else for so long, but now thankfully I like feel like the mask is kind of off. Like sometimes when I notice myself stimming or doing things in public setting, I kind of just do it and I don't really like care as much as I used to. So, which is helpful in some ways, but in others, like, people kind of treat me poorly. My last video was a lot better. Maybe just because I'm not 100% back, like, better after being sick for a week. I think I got the flu. So 28, literal. I used to be like a very literal kind of black and white thinker, and it used to cause a lot of conflict in my relationships, but with age, I have said this in my last video, but I'm definitely more of a grayscale thinker now. It's like I can see different points of view, and when you get to that point, like I don't know if it's from being judged so many times because of my black and white thinking that it helped me see outside the box, or if it just developed with time. But I just, now I'm like such a grayscale thinker that it's kind of like, well, you kind of lose yourself a little bit when you don't have like a really strong, like you don't have as strong beliefs. It makes life easier in some ways, and then it makes things confusing. So 29 is strong sense of justice. As I kind of said before, like, so it's just kind of, it helped me in relationships. It's just interfered with like work at times, relationships, like, and I just feel like I have this like superhero complex where I kind of put myself in positions that have like gotten me almost like hurt. Like I've almost had to attend court as a witness, and I got myself out of that. But there's just like a lot of times where I just want to like protect people and I feel like a superhero. But life is not like the movies. Like, people are freaking scary out there, and I'm not an actual superhero. Anyway, so 30 is, I still repeat the same movies all the time, so like I can watch, I have lots of free time, I don't have kids, I could be watching like new things, learning new things all the time, and I do like ask a lot of questions on like Google, but I still just, my old habit, I could be searching for hours, well not hours, but a really long time for a movie, and I always end up going with something that I've seen before. And that's kind of like an autistic thing. Like at a very young age, like even when I was a kid, I was like repeating movies over and over, sometimes watching the same one in the same day. I know a lot of kids did that, but because it's carried on into adulthood, I know that it's not, like, it's abnormal. 31. So there's 31 is there's certain things I just can't stand about, like neurotypical behavior, like when they're kind of discussing with each other and like talking, and they just have this like phony voice, phony everything, like trying to one up each other, and like, and just the topics that they talk about. I'm talking like they're like this different species, but it kind of does just like, I don't know. Like, I like to get deep. I don't like the surface level stuff, and I just see the way that some of them communicate, and it's like I can see their egos. I can see their like giant heads of like their ego. And I just don't understand, like, the need to be so cruel is part of it from neurotypical people. Like, why do you have to like put others down to make yourself feel so good? And 32 is clumsy balance issues. So it's kind of like comorbid, but I think a lot of us, maybe because I have audio processing and I have an inner ear issue, so like balance issues, but I think a lot of autistic people, I've heard that we have like balance issues. 33 is hyperfixation. So like if I'm reading something new material and I really find it fascinating, I can almost like recite it completely to somebody, but hyperfixation, like I can sometimes accidentally like hyperfixate on people, like almost getting like obsessed. It's like I have like noticed now that like I've kind of put some people on like a pedestal, and when, you know, we all have flaws, and like I don't know why, but hyperfixation is like something with autism and ADHD, and a lot of people who have autism have ADHD. 34 is, sadly, I just kind of feel like I've been wasting a lot of my life away, like just like with the things I've mentioned, like with being rigid and ending relationships, and then with job issues, and just not knowing, like I feel like I really had a purpose when I had my home daycare. I was like taking care of little people, making sure they're happy, healthy, and fed, and you know, and I have I have 2 cats and 2 dogs, and I love them so much, and they're my purpose. But in life, like career wise, I kind of just feel like at a standstill, and I feel like just like the years fly by, and it's like I'm just losing time because I'm not doing a lot. Well, it's like I don't have a lot of money to be doing the things I want to do, like travel or whatever, but I can't also like abandon my animals. And I don't know if that's exactly like an autism thing, but I think it's just because autism has hindered my life in so many ways that I don't know. I've done amazing things too, like I've said, but I just need to learn how to continue to support myself and help myself. Like I've taken classes and courses and group therapy in the past that's like really made a difference and kind of like lit this fire within me and helped me kind of overcome some of my like insecurities, and it's given me confidence, and I feel like I have accomplished a lot of, like I kind of accomplished what I set after. I guess it's just right now I just kind of feel like I'm at this point where it's like I feel a little bit sad that I kind of wasted a lot of my earlier years like caring so much about what people think and getting myself stuck in these. Unfortunately, I might be out of room and I need to move from my parking spot soon, so I'm just gonna fly by these last examples somehow. So 35, when I'm burnt out, I'm rude, I'm irritable. 36, it's like meltdowns, and then I get like I get meltdowns especially with like people with bad manners. Like when people don't say thank you or you're welcome, or I don't know, it's like something gets so triggered in me. It's like people are just so arrogant. 37, rules, creating new rules. So I used to have like very specific things. Like I would like make a list of things I had to do before leaving for the night, like on a night out with friends or something. Now I'm like, I hate rushing through this, but I really don't want to do a part 2. So 38 is sensitive but less. Like I used to be just extremely sensitive to what people would say, insults, like crying a lot, but now it's like now I'm like, okay, look at who it's coming from. But 39 is chameleon. So like I said, kind of about masking, but I sort of like adapt to the people around me, like want to be like them, clothing, fashion, makeup, whatever it is. But I also kind of like I had a job once where we would call like people from out of country, and even like their accents would kind of like almost catch on. Like I didn't mean to, but I don't know. It's just part of my masking, I guess. 40 is, so like weighted blankets. I still want to get one because I just like love getting squeezed, like really strong hugs, or like being squished by somebody, like cuddling. And I don't know if it's emotional regulation or if it's something else, but it helps us in some way, like autistic people. 41 is sleep. So I've mentioned this in my other video, but I have always just had a lot of problems with sleep, more so when I was younger. Now it's like I just get so in my head about like an event that will happen the next day that like I could stay up almost all night and like not be able to fall asleep. But lately I've been having less of that issue, but it used to be like, you know, and then I'm exhausted and drained for whatever this special event thing is. 42 is like, I kind of said this a little bit, but feeling like I'm from another planet. So I just can't comprehend like cruelty and dishonesty and disloyalty, and you know, sometimes like with all these things I'm sensitive to, like all the senses, and then sensitive to others and things, and it does feel like being from another planet. And it's kind of like, it's like maybe we have alien DNA and they won't tell us in our bloodlines. Next is 43 is comorbid. So I've mentioned comorbid conditions a little bit, but some of them I have is ADHD, PTSD, depressive disorder, anxiety, audio processing disorder, OCD, IBS. A lot of us have IBS, like bowel issues, learning dyslexia, and also EDS. So well, I've had eating disorders, but EDS is like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have fibromyalgia, but I haven't investigated if it's actually EDS, because I have like had problems my whole life where like stretchy skin, soft skin, like my knees hyperextend. You're not supposed to be able to put your thumb's like this apparently, just things like that. And next is, so 44 is learnings, or no, yeah, learning dyslexia. I guess I kind of went with comorbid, but I don't know if I missed one or what, but yeah, some of us do have learning disabilities. I wasn't even diagnosed with dyslexia, but I can tell you when I got my first cashier job, I was reading the totals back to people backwards. And I also, when doing exams and stuff, like when things are fast, I'm like writing the words backwards or the letter before the other one. I don't know if it's like mild dyslexia, if I was just able to go through life with not having that diagnosis, but I didn't get any of my diagnoses or proper support, so you can kind of understand if they didn't give me an autism diagnosis, all this other stuff was getting overlooked as well. 45 is I haven't seen a doctor in over 2 years from abuse, like from things I could tell you is just haunting, but you know, that's not really normal to go 2 years not seeing a doctor. Like, I should have checkups and stuff, but at this point it's like I'm starting to develop like a little bit of phobias because of all the abuse I've suffered. 46 is inappropriate laughter. So normally when I'm not like recovering from a cold, I'm like more cheerful and laughy, but sometimes I like laugh at inappropriate moments, like, but I just can't help it. Like, I don't know, I guess it just makes me uncomfortable, and or laughing has been like a coping mechanism in my life. 47 is hyper empathy. So ever since a young age, I've been like extremely like hyper aware of like when others are crying or sensitive, or when animals are getting mistreated, and not just sadness. It could be happy times too. I cry at like weddings and movies, and I know people say when you call yourself that, like, you're not truly an empathetic person, but I could give you a million examples and I don't have time for that. But it's interesting because there's some ways that I can be completely lack empathy with certain things, but I think generally I'm very empathetic. 48 is I dislike small talk, so kind of going back to like neurotypical people, as I said, but I guess I should have I should have combined some of these, so it's not quite 50, but I like just to get raw and real with people and like really get to know one another like on a deeper level, and I can't stand like the small talk. I don't know. The phoniness of it all, I guess. So 49 dislikes change unless I make it. So I notice now that I have like a lot of issues with, so for example, I've talked about before having issues with sound, like when I was younger and in a room full of like papers rustling, pens tapping, and people eating an apple and tapping their foot and everything like that. Like, that would be uncomfortable. It was really hard for me to like focus. It was hard for me to do exams and stuff in those settings. But I realized that having so many stims, I was probably very disruptive and annoying to a lot of people. And so with change, it's kind of the same thing. Like, when I'm set in my routine and my ways, and then something comes in, like a change happens at work or something, it could just be very triggering for me. Like, I don't mean to be so like I don't mean to be so rigid in that way, or like controlling. I feel like I kind of internalize a lot of it, but sometimes times it does just show. Like, it's hard for me to hide how I feel. Last is self-absorbed. So a lot of us autistic people can kind of come across, as I was saying above, like about like, you know, having our interests and being kind of self-absorbed in our ways. Like, we could be rigid, we could be stubborn, of course, especially as a child. But like, I'm a very caring person, and I thrive in jobs where I'm caring about people, and I'm very empathetic, but I know that I'm like very self-absorbed because I've like lived through all these experiences that make me kind of like stuck in the past at times. And I don't mean to be like, oh, woe is me, but I know we all go through things, but I just know that I've been through a lot in life, and it's just made me who I am. So I'm constantly kind of reflecting on like things that have happened that's made me who I am. And I feel like when I'm with people, like, I do really want to like get to know who they are, and I do ask a lot of questions. But at the end of the day, like, despite being sympathetic, like empathetic, caring, like towards others, I know that I'm self-absorbed more than so. I've also developed, like, it's kind of just like fake it till you make it, or like this delulu like confidence in times of my life. I just have a lot of stories. Like, it's kind of like The Secret, as they say. But since diagnosis, yeah, I think it's helped me recognize these things. But on the other hand, a good thing about it is it's helped me prioritize myself. It's helped me understand myself. It's helped me understand my needs. It's helped me to like put my foot down and say no when things aren't right. It's helped me to like let go of relationships that aren't serving me a purpose or aren't good. It's like, why am I reaching out to certain people that basically treat me like a last resort, or like that I'm worthless? It's just helped me like recognize a lot of these patterns, you know, from childhood to now with the abuse that I faced. And it helps me recognize my own flaws, of course, which is good because I want to grow and heal and change. I don't, but you know, the thing is, despite your best efforts, there's certain things just make you who you are. And those initial reactions, those initial thoughts, they just come naturally, and you can't control everything. Like, it takes a lot of meditation to reach like this enlightenment. Like, I don't intend or pretend to be like perfect. I'm just who I am. And I hope that this video has helped you understand yourself a little better, or someone around you. Please check out, like I said, my 50 signs I was a child with autism, undiagnosed video. And please comment, like, subscribe. My channel's kind of silly because I have these long videos that are like in depth and kind of trauma dumping and somewhat educational, and then I have like very silly videos, and I go live with my pets and but I'm just it's nice to connect with people and meet new people like that. So anyway, thank you so much, and it's always hard to end my video. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.